Are we on live? Yes, we are. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Blackout Daily Brief. And before we get into it, let's check out the room. If you're already watching live, go ahead and drop your city and state in the chat or your country if you're outside of the US. I always like to see who's in the building and where everybody is checking in from. So say hello. Let us know where you're watching from, and we're going to give folks a second to get settled. All right. I know you're probably thinking, "Hey, we're already settled. We were waiting on you." Well, give me a second. Is that all right? Give me a second to get settled here. Let me go ahead and say hello to the people in the room. Let me be a good host here. Right Twice a Day has joined. Thank you for stepping in. Whereabouts Unknown joined. Bill Bowden has joined us. Barbara Hawkins has joined us. David Gardner, man, I appreciate you, man. You are a no limit soldier for XVOA. You're always commenting, you're always in the room, and I thank you for that dedication. We got Outdoor, sorry, I don't want to say the name wrong. Outdoor Lavour. Did I say that right? Um, and that's just who I can see. I know there's several others. We got Connie Lane, Fort Collins, Colorado. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And hey, let me remind you, hit that like button, right? You hear that speech all the time. It does things to the algorithm. You know, you know, you heard it. Hit the like button. And let's see, anybody else want to tell me where they're from? And feel free to chime in if you want to ask any questions or make any comments. I do read the comments as we go along. I'm multitasking here. I'm chewing bubble gum and walking. I can switch between the screens. I can see what's going on here. All right. So listen, this is not one of those empty calorie shows, empty calorie news shows rather, where somebody reads you the headlines like a substitute teacher taking attendance. No, we are not here to do a dead-eyed recap of what already flashed across your phone, your iPad, your computer, whatever. We are here to talk about what happened, what is being buried beneath, underneath, out of the light of what happened, and who's going to pay the price for what the cameras glide past. Because listen, a headline is often just the clean shirt they put on a dirty body. And around here, we look under the shirt. Sometimes the blackout is metaphorical, sometimes it's economic, sometimes it's political, and sometimes it's literal. All right. So let's get into it. Weak job market, weak jobs, market nerves, labor pressure, nobody wants to name. All right. First thing, today, the US economy lost jobs in February. Lost jobs, not slower growth, not a disappointing gain. The economy shed 92,000 jobs and unemployment ticked up to 4.4%. And Wall Street didn't take it well, as you probably already know. Stocks dropped, and that bad jobs number hit at the exact same time that oil is jumping because of the war with Iran and the shipping disruption around the Strait of Hormuz. So the official story is this: weak jobs report, um, nervous markets, but the blackout underneath the headline is that ordinary people are getting pinched from both directions at once. A softer labor market on one side, right? More expensive fuel and transport on the other. What that means is more anxiety at the gas pump, more anxiety in trucking, right? More anxiety everywhere. People were already hanging on by their fingernails. And listen, before I go any further, I want to roll a quick clip from MS Now because they said something really important here. All right. And this is the part where I get to scream at my producer for not having the video ready. Producer, what the hell are you doing? You're about to join those thousands of workers in that job market, aren't you? All right. Tell you, good help is hard to find. Let me go ahead and get that video. Let us go ahead and get that video queued up for you. Okay, here is the CNBC. Oh, no, we got to add it to the page. There we go. All right, roll the video.
Guest warns that an AI-fueled job apocalypse is on the horizon. Let's bring in Saul Khan. He's the CEO of the Khan Academy. In his latest piece for the New York Times, Saul makes the pitch that every company benefiting from automation should dedicate 1% of profits to help retrain workers who will be displaced by AI. Sal, first of all, thanks for being here. Second of all, this is a pretty radical proposal, but let's lay out what you think is happening. Why you think this job apocalypse is coming?
Yeah, as soon as generative AI became a big thing, obviously this has been a big debate. Will we have net loss jobs, net gain jobs? And living out here in Silicon Valley, most people have been on, hey, this is going to be like the Industrial Revolution. We'll just, there'll be jobs. We can't name them, but they'll happen. But what we're seeing now, in that op-ed I talk about seeing the Waymos in my neighborhood, and that's cool. But then I go and meet with a friend who is thinking about.
All right, we're going to go back to that video. That was not the video we were supposed to play. This is the video we were supposed to play.
And a New York Times columnist, Andrew Ross Sorkin. Andrew, a big deal, the jobs report that just came through within the last hour. As I noted a few minutes ago, it is down and, much more than, down. It was expected to be up. It's down 92,000 jobs and bringing a total for the last 10 months or so down in terms of whether America has lost jobs overall.
Look, this was there's no getting around it. This was a bad report. The markets are reflecting this was a bad report. The markets are not suggesting, by the way, that bad news is somehow good news, because the other piece of this is it's going to make it much harder for the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates in this environment, given where things are with inflation, with the price of oil and everything else. So there's a whole bunch of issues that are happening all at the same time. But the jobs picture, at least right now, is one element of the economy that does not seem to be holding up. It doesn't mean that it's going to get materially worse next month, but it does suggest that the idea that there's going to be massive growth ahead of us, I think, is a lot harder to believe in this particular moment. And it's going to make the Fed's job that much harder. I think there had been an expectation potentially that we would have a bunch of lowerings of rates this coming year. Kevin Warsh obviously is going to be in that role, assuming he gets through the nomination. And his plan was to do that. I think in this environment, it's going to be harder to do that.
Yeah, the uncertainty around tariffs. We've got rising gas prices because of the war. And now this bad jobs report certainly clouds President Trump's preferred narrative.
Well, and the gas price, by the way, the gas price issue is going to be a big political issue for him. And it really raises the question of just how long this war in Iran is going to last and what that calculus is going to look like. Because as we've talked about, you go to the corner, you see the gas prices, on the corner of every street. It is a billboard. It's a poster for where things are and how people feel about the economy. And you're going to see gas prices rise materially. Now, the president has repeatedly said that he believes in the short term that's okay, and that's a cost worth having, if you will. But as you get closer to the midterms, that is going to be potentially a political cost.
Ron Klain, President Biden's first chief of staff, said he would start every day. First thing he did was check gas prices because he knows, in fact, it is that billboard, this White House growing equally concerned. Andrew.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that right there is that's the part I want people to hear. And they said it plainly. This was a bad jobs report, not a report you.
Should these auto-transforming glasses be made illegal in the U.S.? All glasses have this tiny flaw, but we fixed it.
Hold on here. Shut that video. This is not a report you spin into some weird good news because the Fed will cut rates fantasy. It's a bad report. They also made a point that matters politically and psychologically, right? The jobs number hit at the same time inflation is still a problem. Oil is rising because of the war. And, there's this little thing that's kind of dropped to the B section, tariffs. Yes, they're adding more uncertainty. In other words, this is not one isolated bruise, all right? This is pressure coming from multiple directions at once. And the other line in that report that really stuck with me was gas price point. They said gas prices were basically a billboard on the corner of every street telling people how to feel about the economy. That is true. People may not follow bond yields, the average person, all right? They may not know what the Fed is going to do, but they know what that number says when they pull up to the pump. They know what it feels like when the price jumps and their check does not jump. So when I talk about Blackout, it's the title of this new series. That is part of what I mean, right? The headline says jobs report. The buried story that this report lands inside a larger climate of war costs, tariff anxiety, inflation pressure, and public exhaustion. Okay, that is why the phrase "bad report" matters, because for millions of people, bad report doesn't stay on television. All right,
CNBC's Squawk Box and a New York Times columnist, Andrew Ross Sorkin.
It walks right into the house with them, so to speak. And I need you to hear me on this. Listen, when the media says markets are reacting, that can sound abstract, like this is just rich people watching numbers on screens. No, what that really means is employers get more cautious, hiring freezes start to feel rational, executives start using the language of uncertainty, and uncertainty always lands hardest on the people with the least cushion: Black workers, younger workers, older workers trying to hang on, contract workers, people one check away from drama. Okay, this is the buried part in all this, the human part, the part that does not fit neatly into a little box. Now listen, there is another layer buried in this job story that I don't want to just miss. All right. That other layer is AI. Right? I think I already spoiled it for you by having my producer play the wrong video. But AI, not as sci-fi wallpaper, not as a TED talk, but as labor pressure. Reuters has already been flagging this, these payroll reports as one of the first places investors and policymakers are looking for warning signs of AI disruption. Goldman economists have estimated AI was already shaving thousands of net jobs a month in the most exposed industries last year. Challenger tied AI to a slice of January planned layoffs. That was way back in January. So, no, of course, this report does not prove AI caused all of this, but it does kind of tell you the labor market is weakening at the exact moment companies are getting a lot more comfortable saying the quiet part out loud. They think software can replace more people than they admitted 2 years ago. So before I go on, I want to go ahead and
Project
going to take
manager? Yes.
we're going to
15
take
years of
another
experience.
look
Do you have any
at that video. Video is entitled "How to Tackle the AI Job Apocalypse." Let's have a look.
An AI-fueled job apocalypse is on the horizon. Let's bring in Sal Khan. He's the CEO of the Khan Academy. In his latest piece for the New York Times, Sal makes the pitch that every company benefiting from automation should dedicate 1% of profits to help retrain workers who will be displaced by AI. Sal, first of all, thanks for being here. Second of all, this is a pretty radical proposal, but let's lay out what you think is happening. Why you think this job apocalypse is coming?
Yeah, as soon as generative AI became a big thing, obviously this has been a big debate. Will we have net lost jobs, net gain jobs? And living out here in Silicon Valley, most people have been on, hey, this is going to be like the Industrial Revolution. We'll just, there'll be jobs. We can't name them, but they'll happen. But what we're seeing now, in that op-ed I talk about seeing the Waymos in my neighborhood, and that's cool. But then I go and meet with a friend who is thinking about contributing 1% of his firm's profits for reskilling. And his motivation was he's taken over a call center in the Philippines, and he's going to be laying off 80% of the workforce and replacing them with an AI. That's 7 to 10% of the Filipino GDP directly. Driving some form of a vehicle is 4 to 5 million workers just in the United States. It's one of the biggest sources of employment for men globally, including in the United States. And even if you look at white collar jobs, a lot of people are talking about and seeing what's happening in software engineering right now. It seems kind of frozen. Things like product management, design, we're seeing that those jobs are at least changing. You're not seeing a lot of net hiring. If anything, there's a lot of things going the other way. And the only way to think about how to navigate this, I think if folks wait too long, the political winds are going to switch. We've already seen that populism can get a lot of momentum off of things like globalization and immigration. I think automation is going to hit a lot harder. And 1% isn't without precedent. As I mentioned, one of my friends, he hasn't announced it yet. That's why I'm not naming their firm, but it's a major firm. There's Ares Capital, another major asset manager. They have a class of funds, several $1 billion under management, where they're giving 5% of their promote to philanthropy they're doing healthcare and education, but that's related to reskilling. So the pitch here is it's in companies' best interest. This isn't going to be just, hope isn't a strategy here. We have to get ahead of the curve. The benefits of doing something significantly weigh out the alternative. And I think if we don't do something, politics are going to take over, and that's going to be worse for everyone.
All right. So listen to what was said there. Sal Khan is talking about a call center in the Philippines where AI could wipe out 80% of the workforce. He is talking about millions of driving jobs in the United States. He is talking about software engineering freezing up, product management design changing, and a political backlash. All right. Um, building if people wait too long to deal with it. But here's my blackout point I want to make here. Notice who the conversation always gravitates toward first, right? The college grads, the coders, the product managers, the middle managers, the people cable news knows how to imagine as tragic because they look like the default setting of who the economy was built to protect. And yes, listen, their pain is real. Okay. Um, I'm not saying a college graduate's pain is not real. And I'm not mocking that, but that is not the whole damn story because listen, marginalized communities are going to get hit by this in a different way and often earlier, harder, and with less sympathy. Black workers already overrepresented in precarious we got disabled workers whose jobs were never secure in the first place. Let's not forget rural workers, driving, dispatching, routing, warehousing, women doing clerical and administrative labor that companies keep calling repetitive as if repetition means the bills are fake. People in communities that never fully recovered from industrialization, they're now being told to get ready for digitized deindustrialization. And what makes this more dangerous is that when a white college grad loses a job, the country calls it disruption. When a poor black or brown worker loses a job, the country calls it adaptation. And that is the moral split screen I need people to see. We are already hearing concern framed around elite pipeline jobs because those are the jobs that make other elites nervous. But by the time the respectable panic reaches the neighborhoods that have the least cushion, the damage will already be all over the floor. So, yes, talk about the frozen hiring in software. Talk about the middle manager squeeze, but do not stop there because listen, AI is not just coming for the people who write memos. It is coming for the people who answer the calls, move the boxes, drive the routes, verify the forms, process the claims, moderate the content, and do the invisible support labor that keeps the whole machine alive. And look, listen, if we keep centering only on the most legible victims, then the people most likely to be pushed off the cliff first will once again disappear behind that headline. So now we're going to talk about what's on everybody's mind, right? We're going to talk about the war with Iran. I want to roll this ABC News update, and this one in particular I picked because it captures how quickly this war is widening.
Okay, so everyone thinks baked on grease needs strong chemicals to get it off, but
Overnight, U.S. Central Command releasing video showing a strike targeting an Iranian drone carrier, part of a broader mission to sink the entire Iranian Navy.
We're now up over 30 ships. And in just the last few hours, we hit an Iranian drone carrier ship, roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier.
Video also shows the U.S. striking these hangars at an Iranian airbase. Multiple aircraft were reportedly destroyed. Israel releasing video of this mid-air dogfight over Iran, saying its F-35 shot down an Iranian warplane. ABC News now verifying the U.S. and Israel have damaged or destroyed 13 Iranian missile bases deep underground. Israel claims at least 60% of Iran's missile launchers have now been taken out.
Ballistic missile attacks have decreased by 90% since day one. Drone attacks have decreased by 83% since day one.
But Iran continues to strike across the Middle East. Hotels targeted in Bahrain, where this oil refinery was struck by Iranian missiles. Air defense systems firing, but missing the missiles. Israel and the U.S., meanwhile, say they're moving into a new phase of the war.
As we transition to the next phase of this operation, we will systemically dismantle Iran's missile production capability for the future.
President Trump tells ABC News he wants to make sure a future U.S. president doesn't have to face a hostile Iran, saying, quote, "We don't want some president in 10 years to get stuck with this problem and not know what to do with it." Iran's foreign minister vowing to fight, saying his country is not interested in negotiating. Asked how long this war would last, President Trump saying, quote, "It's over when I want it to be."
Iran is keeping up its attacks across the region. In fact, early this morning, alerts went out warning of incoming missiles and drones here in Doha. Defense officials say Iran targeted the Al Udeid air base once again. Those projectiles were intercepted and no injuries or damage reported. Marcus Moore, ABC News, Doha.
Now, that clip right there is exactly why I keep saying, do not let the television graphics fool you. Okay, listen to the language. A broader mission to sink the entire Iranian Navy. A new phase of the war. Underground missile bases, air bases, drone carriers, a refinery hit in Bahrain, alerts in Doha. That is not a contained skirmish. That is a widening battle space. And the line that really should chill people was Trump saying, "It's over when I want it to be." Sit with that for a second. That's not the language of restraint. That is not the language of a narrow operation. That is a president talking about war like it's a personal instrument, something he turns on and off by force. ABC is also showing you the split screen that matters. On one side, the U.S. and Israel are highlighting tactical success. Ships hit, hangars hit, missile bases damaged, launchers reduced. On the other side, right, Iran is still striking across the region. Bahrain, Doha, the map is still hot. That means the blackout is not just escalation, it's the illusion of control. The public gets shown footage that looks decisive while the battlefield gets wider, targets multiply, and the definition of victory keeps sliding. Mission creep. Anybody familiar with that term? Now, let's stay with that war piece for a second because this is where a lot of today's other stories connect, right? Oil is jumping because the Iran war is not just about missiles and maps. It is about choke points, shipping lanes, supply chains, and whether the stuff that keeps modern life going can get where it needs to go without getting shot at, delayed, or priced into the freaking stratosphere here. Now, we already saw markets fall as oil pushed above $90 a barrel. Translation: nobody knows where this is going. And when powerful people do not know where it's going, they tend to make everyone else eat the risk. And here's the part that gets hidden behind the war graphics. If you live in a neighborhood that already pays more for everything, if your commute is long, if your job depends on delivery, travel, retail, food service, or any business that touches transportation costs, then foreign policy is not foreign. It is rent. It is groceries. It is whether your boss starts cutting hours. It is whether you have to side hustle to make ends meet, and whether that side hustle even makes sense anymore. People hear Middle East escalation and think cable news panel, right? I, I hear utility bills. I hear food inflation. I hear another round of psychological wear and tear on people who have not recovered from the last round. And, before I pivot into the next section, producer, let's get the next video ready. Before I make that pivot, I want to roll this short here. This is from the National News Desk because it shows what economic strangulation looks like when it stops being theory. Okay.
Is Cuba facing a total economic collapse? Well, since the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on January 3rd, the oil exports from Venezuela to Cuba have been completely shut off. Is Cuba facing a total economic collapse? Well, since the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on January 3rd, the oil exports from Venezuela to Cuba have been completely shut off. Much of Cuba already suffers daily blackouts, including the capital Havana, where trash has reportedly been piling up because garbage trucks are running out of fuel. Now, new reports suggest Cuba has only enough oil to last 15 to 20 days under current demand. For years, under the U.S. embargo, Cuba has relied heavily on Venezuela and Mexico for its oil supply. The U.S. is now reportedly pressuring Mexico to also stop its oil flowing to the Caribbean island. Earlier last week, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum said her government would, for now, continue oil supply to Cuba after a temporary pause due to what she described as sovereign decisions.
And Cuba will be failing pretty soon. Cuba is really a nation that's very close to failing. They got their money from Venezuela. They got the oil from Venezuela. They're not getting that anymore.
Trump has said Cuba should strike a deal with the U.S. to avoid a total cutoff, but hasn't specified his demands. Meanwhile, it's unclear how a regime change could look in Cuba. The country has been under communist rule since 1965 without a strong opposition movement like the one led by Maria Corina Machado in Venezuela. In an expo celebrating the centenary of Fidel Castro's birth, Cuba's president wrote that the harshness of the threats against Cuba will not stop the country. At the same time, the state newscast has begun airing military exercises and showing soldiers training citizens to repel a potential invasion. Is Cuba facing a total economic collapse?
Okay, I think the
since
video
the capture
is
of Venezuelan
rolling
President
over.
Nicolas Maduro on January 3rd, the oil exports from Venezuela to Cuba have been
Stop it. All right. So that short right there is that's why I keep telling people not to hear the word geopolitics and imagine only maps, speeches, and men in suits. You heard it. Listen to what they're describing. Venezuelan oil shut off, daily blackouts, Havana trash piling up because garbage trucks are running out of fuel. Warnings that Cuba may have only 15 to 20 days of oil under current demand. Pressure on Mexico to cut off supplies too. That is not just a foreign policy story. That is daily life being squeezed until it starts to crack. And look, notice something else. Once the conversation shifts to possible state failure, the language gets very casual, very cold, very strategic, even. Cuba is falling. Cuba is close to failing. Strike a deal, regime change. But what disappears inside that language are the ordinary people sitting in the dark, trying to refrigerate medicine, trying to get to work, trying to throw out trash, trying to just to keep a household together while superpowers and embargo politics treat their lives like leverage. That is the blackout inside the blackout. A whole population gets narrated as a chessboard problem while the actual human experience becomes fuel lines, spoiled food, missed work, and fear. And listen, when state TV starts showing military drills and civilians training for a possible invasion, that tells you the pressure is no longer abstract. It is in the bloodstream now. And if you want to see what blackout really looks like when geopolitics leaves the studio and enters daily life, look at Cuba. Most of the island, including Havana, lost power. um, believe it was this week. Repairs at a key thermoelectric plant were expected to take days. Reuters tied the crisis to a familiar squeeze: a broken grid, chronic underinvestment, and oil shipments curtailed under renewed U.S. pressure. That's what I mean when I say foreign policy is not foreign. It lands in somebody's refrigerator, somebody's medication, somebody's dark apartment. And the war story got darker again this afternoon, believe it or not. Reuters reports that the Washington Post says Russia is providing Iran with targeting information on U.S. warships and aircraft in the region. Now, sit with that for a second. Sit with it. That means the buried angle here is no longer just regional escalation. It is great power opportunism. It is one war feeding another war. It is Russia finding a way to bleed U.S. attention, raise the costs, turn this thing into a broader test of how many fronts Washington thinks it can manage at once. And listen, since we are talking about what gets hidden in plain sight, we need to talk about Congress. Okay. The House just rejected a war powers resolution, 219 to 212. That would have required Trump to get congressional authorization for or against Iran. The Senate had already blocked a similar measure, which was 53 to 47. Now, the easy headline here is that Trump won the vote. Fine. Okay, fine. But the blackout underneath that headline is that lawmakers got to perform concern about constitutional war powers, right? Just a little bit of performative display there. And then when it counted, most of them still chose drift, deference, and executive freelancing. That is the story. Congress saying, in effect, we're worried about this war, but not worried enough to actually stop it. And that matters, okay? Because once the vote is over, the burden shifts back onto everybody else. The troops, the families of the troops, the public, the people paying higher prices while being told This is about national security in some abstract explanation. The War Powers Resolution still creates a ticking clock, but politically, the message of these votes was unmistakable. Even after deaths, escalation, no clear end game, Washington is still structurally more comfortable funding momentum than forcing accountability. And before I roll over into the next section, we got it looks like it's popping off in the chat room. Gene just joined. Gene, thank you for joining us here. We got AJ. Thank you for joining us. We got Tony. Tony, thank you for calling. Anybody, any one of those you want to tell us where you're checking in from, the country or city and state? David Gardner has a comment. He says that now the Trump Epstein class has hijacked the economy. They are wasting no time excluding those who built it. If they can deny strategic resources to the opposition, it will take us longer to shut down their operations and hold them to account. AJ says, everything you are saying is the truth. But people, the Red Party, are telling me I am out of my mind. That's AJ from Tennessee there. And then we got Tony, my man. His fingers are typing that keyboard at, 1,000 characters a second here. He's basically written a Wikipedia page in the chat room. I'm going to try to cover some of this. Tony writes, this is why you must stop the Trump crypto cartel pump and dump of your 401k pension with their permissionless Senate Bill Clarity Act. Okay, and he's got a link there. Okay, more links, more links, more links. Call today and tell the U.S. Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs no on the Clarity Act. I got to do some research on that. I'm not familiar with that. So, Tony, if you want to go ahead and type a message here explaining what the Clarity Act is about, give me some context, give me some backstory so I can explain it to the audience. I got to be real careful of putting stuff out there before even I explain it. So, all right, next we're going to talk about Jasmine Crockett and the fallout from that whole election. And this is about campaign failure, coded message, coded language rather, and who gets told to fall in line. And I'm not going to give my clip. I'm not going to give you my take yet. I want to roll this clip right here, and it's entitled "The Sudden Experts on Jasmine Crockett." Okay. Producer, let's go ahead and get that queued
This company is
up.
going viral for.
Let's kill the audio. And let's kill the ad. Still more ads. Like playing a game of guacamole up in here. All right. Roll the clip.
Blake Kane Show. Here, my girl Reese Colbert. And also, I believe we're live on the Good Instagram as well. Are we live on the Good Instagram? Let me see here. I believe we're going live on the Good Instagram. We'll see if it happens. Yes, we're going live on the Good Instagram as well. So if I see y'all out there, what's up with the Good IG? Here, my girl, she is the host of the Reese Colbert Show, and she is the creator of the Am I Tripping game. Cop that game right now, mitrippinggame.com, mitrippinggame.com. And if you're a new subscriber, this show airs Monday through Friday from 12 to 3. We go live normally at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And Reese Colbert is my co-host on Tuesdays
by the
and
way,
Thursdays.
this is a show
If they
that
are a new
airs
subscriber, Reese
on
Colbert, tell them
satellite
about yourself and how they
radio,
can follow you.
Urban View. They
I'm Reese Colbert,
simulcast a
host of the Reese
YouTube
Colbert Show on Sirius XM Urban View, Saturdays,
feed.
2 to 4 p.m. live. It's a call-in show. It is a ton of fun. We cover politics and culture, and it's like the cookout. So come and join me Saturdays, 2 to 4. Me and my girl, Erica Savage.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, Reese. So let's talk a little bit about the Jasmine Crockett, James Tallarico race in Texas. There was the Senate primary, and James Tallarico won. They both got over 1 million votes, which is a record. Jasmine Crockett got over 1 million, and James Tallarico got, was it almost, maybe it was 1.1 million or so, 1.2 million, and he won the Senate primary. There's a few things I want to get to, but I know folks have been asking for your opinion if they didn't see your content on social media. What are your thoughts on the post-conversation around Jasmine Crockett and her campaign?
Well, there's a part of me that feels like I'm in the Twilight Zone because I could have sworn, and I have screenshots, that the entire campaign, the case was made, and there are multiple endorsements for for James Tallarico. There were multiple op-eds, hack jobs, if you ask me, against Jasmine Crockett. And the entire premise of why Tallarico is the guy was that he was the one that was going to flip voters. He was going to attract Republicans and all of these things. And so many people said, I love Jasmine, or maybe they didn't love her, but we need the white and Latino voters. That was what I heard the entire campaign. And the results are in. And it was white and Latino voters that powered Tallarico to the win. What's happening with my computer? Okay. I don't know what's happening, why I'm freaking out. So, anywho, my whole point is, y'all said that Tallarico is the guy, Hillary, that was going to flip Texas. And so after the race was called, I said, okay, you guys put it out there. This is a fight for the soul of the Democratic Party. I'm just going to read off some of these headlines, okay? Michelle Goldberg in the New York Times said 2 comedians told the truth about Jasmine Crockett's campaign, okay? And what she said is that her theory is dubious. The theory that she can turn out voters, mainly Black voters that don't vote. And it was actually Tallarico who is going to flip Republican voters. That's what she said. Okay. There's one lady who was particularly nasty, Jill. She was, ooh. I had to screenshot her stuff too. I'm going to get to it. She's a Texas political consultant, and what she said is, before she said, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to it. Okay, who is Jasmine Crockett? This is Evan Barker writing for the Times. Who is Jasmine Crockett? The Democrat running in Texas. The party shouldn't want to win. The party has long believed it can flip Latino voters in Texas, but an anti-Trump firebrand won't do the job. So I bring these things up because it was constantly put forth that Tallarico was going to win white voters. He was going to win Latino voters. And even Black people, it takes a white man to be the white man, said that Jasmine couldn't get the white and Latino vote. Okay. And this same bitch, after Jasmine lost, said, let me go to the headline. Shit. As I was taking a lot of screenshots. Jasmine Crockett's loss could finally give the Democrats a fresh start. She said, I predicted the left-wing firebrand would win in Texas using the old identity politics. Identity politics. Remember that word? That word was floating. It's only identity politics when we're talking about the blacks. Now we're identity politics. She said, but James Tallarico proves the party is ready to write a new one. She said, the truth is, demographics aren't destiny for all racial groups. That's what she said. And she's referring to how, well, demographics aren't destiny, that they aren't going to vote for the black woman because they're Latino or Asian. That's what she said. So, wielding her identity like a weapon, and for once this strategy backfired. How dare she be black? Another person. A Texas Senate race is testing Democrats' stomach for race and gender fights. Latino voters will probably decide the primary contest between Crockett and Tallarico. They were correct. Identity, this is Axios. Identity politics convulse Dems Senate primary. And they laid out how blacks are being problematic and calling out racism and misogyny. They didn't say that. They didn't say that, but that was the point of it. For KCWR, now these are mostly things that happened before. Texas Dems are stuck on identity politics. Identity, that word was just being thrown around.
That was Kamala Harris's entire campaign, identity politics.
Even though she didn't black, which I said she needed to say. Star Telegram, a Houston or Texas newspaper, and their endorsement. They said that Tallarico was needed because he's going to bring in Republicans and converting independent. That was the other thing. Oh, he's going to get the independents. He's going to get the Republicans. I'm going somewhere with this. Okay. And you also had, there's one more. It was just a headline. From the Houston Chronicle 1 month ago. Do you want to win or not? Democrats should make Tallarico their Senate candidate. So there's a very extensive body of work around the idea. Oh, and let's not forget, sorry, I missed a big one. Yeah, there's a big body of work. Oh, can James Tallarico, this is Mother Jones, March 2nd. Can James Tallarico convince Democrats he's the fighter they need? The Texas Senate primary is a battle for the party's soul. The party's soul is what they said. And this was a puff piece on Tallarico. Oh, and then Jasmine is just a ghetto loudmouth black girl. That's there's a large body of work with that. And then when she lost, James Tallarico victory is a rebuke to identity politics. So, okay. So you're right. Now it's funny though. Now let me tell you, this is where I'm getting to. It's very, very, very funny that everybody laid down the gauntlet. Everybody drew the battle lines. And so now that Tallarico is the guy, congratulations. It took a colossal effort to win. Congratulations. And I said, we're passing the baton. I didn't say black people won't vote. I said that we're passing the baton. This primary was a theory of the race, and white people after white people and white Democrats all said that the theory of the race that Jasmine Crockett put forth was wrong and Tallarico's was right. And he won. So let's test that theory out. So I've made videos and I've said, hey, white and Latino voters make Texas Blue again. And it's so funny how it's fine coming from their side to say white Latino voters, white Latino voters, white Latino. But what I also realize is, a big reason why they're feeling uncomfortable with the label white is because they don't want to say white. White has to be silent. So they say conservative, they say independents, they say working class, they say union, they say firefighters, they say
College
everything.
voters.
Huh? What was that?
College voters.
College voters. Oh, yeah. Suburban voters.
Yeah.
Soccer moms. They got every motherfucking euphemism. But what they were very, very clear on is that identity politics was dead if Tallarico wins. But now that you have a lot of Black people that are saying, y'all got this, there's fucking panic. And I've made videos saying white voters for the win. And every time I say white voters, you got this, even though y'all haven't been voting Democrats in the majority or in large enough numbers since Black people got rights. This is the guy to do it. This is your great white hope candidate. This is your unicorn candidate. This guy is so special that he's the guy to do it. And every time I bring up white voters or Latino voters, they want to change the subject back to Black voters. Why are we talking about what Black voters are going to do? I thought y'all didn't like that conversation. I thought that was identity politics when Jasmine talked about it, or when as Black people, we talked about Jasmine.
All right. That's a lot to unpack right there. But that clip gets right to the nerve of this whole thing, right? Reese is not saying Jasmine Crockett ran a perfect campaign. She is saying the people who spent the whole primary telling us James Tallarico was the electable answer now suddenly want to change the subject. So I think that's important because all through that race, the theory was very clear. He was supposed to be the one who could get white voters, Latino voters, independents, crossover Republicans, all these magical categories that appear every time a Black candidate is told to step aside for the good of the coalition. And now that he's won the primary, it's just a primary, I understand that. But still, some of those same people want to go right back to dissecting Jasmine, almost like they do not actually want to sit with the burden of the theory that they're selling here. That is why the word electability, right? We keep hearing that over and over again. Feels kind of dirty in this context, not because the strategy is fake, okay? Listen, strategy is real. Campaign mistakes are real. But electability has a way of becoming a polite word for old discomfort. It's a professional way of saying this Black woman makes too many people nervous. A deodorized way of saying we trust him to carry the coalition to the general election, but expect her to drag it. Listen, Reese's other point matters here too. The morning after a Black woman loses, everybody becomes a genius. Everybody becomes an expert, right? Everybody suddenly has a neat little autopsy. But when white male candidates lose, especially inside parties that are invested in them, you do not always get that same instant public humiliation ritual. You get patience, right? You get reframing. You get another chance. So when I say this fallout matters, this is what I mean. This is not just about one race. This is about who gets treated like the backbone of the party until they actually want to lead it. It's about who gets called divisive, who gets called strategic, who gets afforded complexity, and who gets flattened into a warning label for everybody else. Now, let's talk about the fallout from Jasmine Crockett's loss, right? Because, listen, the conversation after the loss has been almost as revealing as the loss itself. And I want to say this carefully because too much of this conversation has been sloppy, emotional, tribal, and dishonest. And I'm not going to do the fake thing here where we pretend Jasmine Crockett ran a flawless campaign. Okay, her campaign, um, in my opinion, it just wasn't up to snuff. So, but that's not the only explanation for what happened. Um, and racism is not the only explanation for what happened either. No, that is way too easy. And frankly, it lets too many real mistakes off the hook. Listen, if you're looking at Texas as a map, as math, as turnout, as infrastructure, as county by county warfare, then yes, Jasmine Crockett did not run an adequate statewide campaign. That's not hate. Okay, it's not hate to say that. It's not betrayal, right? I, I don't live in Texas, but I wanted to see Jasmine win. What we're doing here is campaign analysis, right? So here's the story in plain English. The morning after Jasmine Crockett's loss, the Democratic Senate primary to state Senator James Tallarico, right? Um, and Roland Martin, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a veteran Black journalist and political commentator from Texas. He's got his own network show on YouTube, live show, the Black Star Network. Excuse me. And basically, he came out saying, slow down, because a lot of people are telling the wrong story about why she lost. Okay. And Roland Martin, you know, watching his video, he's making the point that Jasmine Crockett was not talented, not ready, and not qualified. His point was that Texas is a giant statewide battlefield, and he believed her campaign was not built tightly enough for that battlefield. And on his show, I watched him walk through the race like a field general. He talked about the map, the turnout, the margins, the voting rules, the counties she needed to dominate, and the fact that Tallarico appeared to be running the stronger statewide machine. So, you know what? I was not going to play the video, but I'm going to go off script a little bit here. We're going to find the video, and I'm just going to play certain excerpts from it. But before I do that, I want to see if anybody new entered the room, and it looks like we have Christy Newton. Thank you for joining us. I think that's it so far. No one else new. So let me go. Give me a second here. See where it is at. See if I can find
quickest way to shrink your prostate.
Video. No, you do not want to hear that. There we go again. I'm playing guacamole with these ads on YouTube. Man. All right. Producer, we got that video queued up there. There we go. We're going to listen to just a few excerpts. I'm not going to play this whole thing. This is, what, 2 hours long? But well worth the view, right? If you're a political junkie, you want to go check this out on your own on YouTube. definitely was not a waste of time.
Folks today are upset because of what happened last night in Texas. A lot of black folks. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was running for the Texas Democratic nomination for United States Senate against Texas State Senator James Tallarico. Those two, there was a third candidate in the race, but it really was between these two. And here are the election results right here. This is what it came down to. Tallarico getting 52% of the vote. 97.4% of the vote is in. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett getting 46% of the vote. And so some ballots still have to be counted. And I've been watching all the different commentary. I've been watching people say, oh, my God, this was awful. This was about, you know, white and Latino voters, locking out black voters and all of that. You're wrong. Let me say it again. You're wrong. Listen, folks, I'm born and raised in Texas. I was watching this race from the beginning. I was looking at every single facet of this particular race. And here's the reality. If you look at the numbers and you're trying to win, understand overall the state of Texas. 60% of Texas is minority. That's Latino, that's African American, that's Asian American, that's Native American. Yet in elections, 60% of the voters are white. Texas has the most eligible black voters of any state in the country. Yet when Colin Allred ran against Ted Cruz, 1.2 million black folks did not vote. Let me say it again. 1.2 million did not vote. And so if you want to understand what was going on, you have to understand what were the strategies of both candidates. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett made it perfectly clear she was going to be unconventional. She wasn't going to be putting money on television. She talked about a ground game. She really was locking up, trying to focus on the largest counties in Texas. Now, the 5 largest counties in Texas, they are Dallas, you got Harris County, where Houston is. You got Dallas County, Dallas is. Bexar County, San Antonio. Travis County, Austin. And then you have Tarrant County, where Fort Worth is. 4 of those 5 are blue counties, okay? Doesn't matter in primaries, though. But Tarrant County is the only red county. Here's the problem. And what did I say? I had the chair of the Texas Democratic Party on this show on Monday. I discussed this last week as well when I was in Los Angeles for the Image Awards. What did I tell y'all then? That in order to win the Democratic primary, you have to do the exact same strategy as Republicans in the general election. That if you only look at the most populous counties and you do not do well in the other parts of the state, you're not going to win. Go to my iPad, Elise. This right here is from the Texas Tribune. This is their breakdown of the map. Look at the map, y'all. You see blue? The blue here, that's all Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. The yellow you see right here are the counties that they have still yet to collect the votes from. The green, that's Tallarico. What did I say? Now, what I also said was the issue was the margins. When Republicans beat Democrats, they win all of these states that are in Central, South, West, and the Panhandle because they rack up margins. All those votes add up. And so if you look at, so let's take what happens, okay? Most of the votes in Texas, right here in the blue, where African Americans are. This right here, I'm going to show you. This is a map of the New York Times. Give me a second. I'm going to pull this up. This is from the New York Times. The New York Times map right here. It shows counties with more Hispanic voters. That's in the teal. The count, then of course, where you see the sort of the purple east. So that's the areas with black voters. Then Crockett, y'all, the numbers are the numbers. So you see this portion right here. These are where all the black voters are in the state. You ain't got black folks who are west. So you also got to win that low. So what did Tallarico did? He won these areas here, Latino votes. Down here in South Texas, right down here in South Texas, he won those places. The key is, what were the margins in those places? All right. Now, again, it comes down to math. It's not a question of, well, it's math, but also what kind of campaign that you run. So let me go back to this map right here. Okay. So let me pull this up. So I'm looking right here, Dallas County. You see this right here? Dallas County, the home county of Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She got 163,379 votes. That's 58.9%. Tallarico got 110,577, 39.9%. Y'all, she has no shot at winning if she does not hit 70% in her home county. Now, some of you are saying, well, they had the voter suppression and the Republicans because you couldn't vote countywide in your precinct. You're right. But guess what? It's the job of the Democratic Party and the candidates to tell folks how they must vote. I spoke at the MOK, City of Dallas MOK program on January 17th at Friendship West Baptist Church. They had an MOK teach-in, and they were talking about the election. Do you know what they said? They said then, early voting, you got to vote countywide, but on election day, you got to vote in your precinct. So if I was the Crockett campaign, I should have been going hard telling people you got to vote early as opposed to waiting on election day. That was a huge mistake. And I got to be honest, y'all, on election day, it's a perfect example. There was a brother, he's an alpha, named Andre Turner. He was running for a Justice of the Peace position. Yesterday, I got 5 text messages. I'm still registered there in Dallas County. I got 5 text messages from his campaign about election day. I got 0 yesterday from the Crockett campaign. I want y'all to think about that. I got 0. And so the reality is, if I had to examine both campaigns, one of them had a campaign. Tallarico had 30,000 volunteers. 30,000 volunteers. How many volunteers were the Crockett campaign? Let's talk about Harris County, okay, where Houston is. All right, let's look at numbers right there. Huge numbers of black voters in Harris County. Look at the numbers. Jasmine Crockett did 52.2%, Tallarico 46.7%. Yo, if that margin has to be at least 60% for her to make up losing in the other area.
For 30 years on election. Meet EM Sense, a breakthrough in foot therapy that wraps around your foot and ankle like a therapeutic boot and election night, watching the results came in, and then last night was another crazy one. Before I head to the airport to get back to D.C., I need to tell you how this happened. It starts with the candidate. James Tallarico is a special candidate, and I take nothing away from Jasmine Crockett, who ran an incredible race. You know, hat tip to her and her team. Hat tip to her and her team this morning. I love to see the unity and her coming together. We're going to win in November. We're going to beat the Republicans. But James Tallarico ran the right kind of race at the right time. He also had an amazing staff. Seth, his manager, assembled a great crew, and they did an outstanding job. Gina Hinojosa, that's the Tallarico Gina Hinojosa, and JT on the press team, that whole crew just worked day and night, and me getting to spend some time with them and see the energy on the ground really made some difference. But how did he win? He won because he showed up in communities. He ran advertising in those communities. He had an amazing field team with 28,000 volunteers, over 600 community events in just 8 weeks. They sent over 4 million peer-to-peer texts, like grassroots organizing combined with paid advertising in digital, TV, radio, around sporting events, and a robust Latino advertising campaign in Spanish, in English, but a lot of Spanish advertising, a lot of advertising in the Valley. Okay, I'm going to write more about this later, but there's a reason why.
Was largely stylistic. A lot of the things and legislation and campaign that they ran on was largely similar. The only difference is, Tallarico was running as a white evangelical, and Jasmine Crockett was obviously running as herself as a Black woman. I think you said something poignant, though, Roland, in terms of who was investing in minority-owned media, Black-owned media, but also what the campaign strategist said, who was investing in Latin-owned media? It was James Tallarico. When you look at what the United States Census Bureau estimates, 40% of Texas's population is Latino. So it makes perfect sense to me that those who captured the Latino vote were those who were the winners, which was James Tallarico last night. It also makes sense to me that you can't simply focus on the 5 largest metropoles in Texas and think that you're going to get the entire state. Texas is one of the biggest states in the United States, and that's the very reason why the margins are so
It's called being truthful.
You can get away. Let me be serious for a moment, because this is really why you are the voice of Black America, and you're coming to us at a time when emotions are high and raw, and we all feel, very disappointed and let down. But there are facts to this situation that you have spoken that I actually realized a long time ago as I watched this campaign unfold. I am a huge fan and supporter of Representative Jasmine Crockett, and will continue to be there for her, like I think many of your viewers will be, because we have seen her work. But we also, some of us may recognize the campaign wasn't run in a way that we may have wanted it to be run, or as tight for those of us who know how politics work and know how the game should be played, happened. Part of that is in part due to the fact that she was a late entry into the race for a number of reasons. Part of it is due to the fact of what Texas did to redraw these maps, and this is all a part of it. We saw other very popular incumbents on different sides suffer through what happened yesterday. But I have to be honest with you, Roland Martin, and say with the full conviction of a fellow Scorpio that everything that you said just now was 100% accurate and right. And I am in shock that you set your butt up here and said it.
Well,
kudos to you for having the balls. Kudos to you for the big balls.
Look, I listen. There were people who were reacting, and again, I'm watching this from day one. First of all, I understand the point by saying that started late. No, the filing deadline was December 8th. The filing deadline was December 8th. Okay, dishes were changed. Congresswoman Crockett jumps into the race. But here's the deal: even though Tallarico got in earlier, she starts the campaign off with massive name recognition, okay? And so the question then becomes, okay, how do you construct a campaign in order to win? You got to win March 3rd before you can run in November. And so if anybody's focused on, and there were a lot of people who I talked to who were calling me, who were Crockett supporters, who were saying, oh, she got it. And I was like, I'm sorry. What are y'all doing? I said, guys, you got to win March 3rd before you get to November. You can't act like this guy is a pimple on the elephant's ass. I'm like, no, that ain't how this works. You got to really focus on this race. You got to take him out if you want to win. He got to take her out to get to November. And again, there were some people, some well-meaning people, some brothers and sisters who were saying, oh man, she got this, she got this. And I said, I'm telling y'all, don't skip over the primary because he's going to run to win. And folks hit me, they were like, damn, man, you were right. I'm like, what were y'all doing? You can never assume. If you are a donor or a supporter, you can never assume. And I'm telling you what I was looking at. And understand, my mama and daddy are 78. They have worked campaigns. They have run phone banks. I was with them putting up yard signs and posters and standing out in front of polls. I'm saying what I was seeing was, where was the team? Where were the people? Where was Harris County? I grew 3rd Ward, Texas, where my high school is. Okay, Jack Yates.
I'm going to skip ahead.
Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church is a block away. Massive mega church. TSU is across the street.
Skip.
This is how you can uncover all the secrets of your family that no one ever told you.
There is a platform where you can search billions.
There we go.
Seeing the energy that I thought I was going to see. And I was like, yo, this is a problem, because I knew based upon the last, when Royce West ran, that you needed massive turnout in Harris County and Dallas County, because those are the two biggest counties. Rebecca.
Thank you. So I'm going to start my comments with just a little bit of gratitude. I am grateful that I've actually worked on the ground on campaigns in Texas. I'm grateful that I have been a campaign manager, including on statewide races. I'm also grateful that I've been a campaign manager for federal races as well. I'm also have a degree in political science. I understand how to read data and also spotting when data is incomplete. I'm also an attorney, lead a national voting rights organization, and spend a lot of time in the VRA. So in saying all of these things, I think it's important in any post-mortem to have complete data. And while I hear your analysis, Roland, I think you have some incomplete data there.
How
Not
so?
saying that your conclusion.
How so?
I'm getting there. Can you put up the screen of the map that you're standing in front of?
Yeah, it's right here. It's up.
Cool. Thank you. So here's a few things. And I've worked a lot of war rooms. So like me and Chuck, like in fact, when I was at MoveOn.org, we hired Chuck to do a lot of the Spanish digital and Spanish media. So I'm very familiar with the work that he does. So like, for instance, you're showing up, I wish there was a green screen behind me because I could just point to it. So I'll have to get my green screen. So for instance, you see how you have the breakdown of counties of you have the yellow for Tide, you have the green for Talarico, you have the blue for Jasmine Crockett. In order to have complete data in doing this analysis, you need to have the map where you can actually pull through and see the raw data of the number of votes per county. Because one thing that
you can, I can. Which county you want to look at?
So I want the aggregate total of the counties, especially the eastern part of the state that Jasmine picked up. I want you to pull up the raw data. I want to be able to see even the population centers.
Okay.
Versus in a lot of the green.
So right here, you take Navarro County.
Now you're standing in front of it, so I can't see it.
No, okay. Okay, so Navarro County, she got 61% of the vote. She got 1,300 votes compared to Talarico's 760. Next door, Limestone County, she got 695 to 293. Next to that,
we're gonna break it off right there. Listen. So the purpose of me bringing in Roland Martin into this discussion, and when I bring up Roland Martin here, I'm not asking you to know his resume in advance. I am telling you why his argument matters. Okay, he was offering a nuts and bolts critique of the actual race itself in plain language. His messages, his message, right, singular, was this: in Texas, being the more visible candidate is not enough. If your opponent has the better turnout operation, clear voter education, broader regional reach, and stronger margins where it counts, then charisma can still lose to machinery. And what does that mean in plain English? It means he was looking at the margins, turnout, voter education, like I said, and campaign infrastructure. Listen, he was saying that in a state as big and sprawling as Texas, Jasmine needed much bigger places much bigger numbers in places like Dallas and Harris County. Needed to push early voting, or Jasmine rather, needed to push early voting harder because of the confusion around election day precinct rules, and needed a stronger text, robocall, volunteer, and turnout machine to compete. He also pointed out that Talarico had something like 30,000 volunteers, and that one campaign looked more like a full statewide operation than the other. So that right there, that's Roland Martin's point. Not that Jasmine Crockett was a bad candidate. Not that black voters are to blame in all of this. His point is that Texas don't care about vibes. Texas cares about math, margins, media markets, turnout rules, and whether your campaign is organized enough to survive them. And if your opponent is built the stronger machine across the map while you're still leaning on energy and name recognition, which Jasmine Crockett had in, you know, she had it in, she had it, you know, that can't beat charisma every time. And also, I know I said that word before, infrastructure, it matters. Ground game matters. Early voter vote education matters. Volunteer scale matters. Message discipline matters. If people are confused about where to vote, that matters. If your campaign is not saturating the places where you need turnout, that matters. If the other campaign is texting more, knocking more, organizing more, and showing up in Spanish language media more, and looking more like a machine, that matters. Listen, elections are not just about who people like. They are about who built the better delivery system for their support. But here's where I also think Reese Colbert's side of the argument cuts deep here, because once Jasmine lost, some people didn't just critique the campaign. They got a little too eager, a little too relieved, a little too excited to turn the word electability into some type of moral verdict. And that is where my antenna goes up, because electability in Democratic politics has a funny smell. He's, ugh. It always seems to show up strongest when a black candidate, and especially a black woman, is no longer supposed to lead, but merely save the coalition. All during that race, all right, people kept saying the same thing. James Tallarico was the one who could get the white vote, the Latino vote, the crossover vote, the independent vote, the Republican curious vote. The mythical moderate vote that always seems to appear right on schedule whenever black political ambition starts making establishment people nervous. Now, and once that theory won, the same people who spent months testing Jasmine Crockett like an identity politics problem suddenly wanted black folks to stop talking and quietly move on. That is convenient, too convenient, because if credibility, or if, sorry, electability was the pitch, then electability has to be the burden now. Listen, you don't get to spend a whole primary season telling people that a black woman is too loud, too risky, too racial, too much, too whatever coded language you want to use here, and then turn around and demand that the very people you just diminished immediately fall into line without naming what you just did. And that is the dog whistle part here. Not every use of the word electability is racist, but let's stop lying like that word has not been used as a clean, professional sounding way to express discomfort. Sometimes electability means fundraising strength. Sometimes it means message discipline. Sometimes it really does mean coalition breath. And sometimes, let's keep it real, y'all. Let's keep it real. Sometimes it means white people will be more comfortable with him than with her. Those are not the same thing. So, two things can be true at once. Jasmine Crockett did run an adequate campaign for the size, rules, and terrain of Texas. And electability is still being thrown around in this party almost like a dog whistle when black ambition refuses to make itself smaller for other people's comfort. That's why this fallout matters. And let me take it one step further, okay? If James Tallarico was sold as a candidate who could bring in the voters Jasmine supposedly could not reach, then that theory now belongs to him and to everybody else who sold it. Fine. He won. Now go prove it. Go win the coalition you promised. Go earn the people you said were available to be earned. But do not, listen to me, do not come back in November if this thing gets tight and suddenly act like black voters are once again the emergency contact for a theory they were told not to question. That right there, that's the blackout. Okay. Not just that Jasmine Crockett lost, but that the autopsy around her loss is revealing who gets called strategic and who gets called divisive, who gets called electable, and who gets called excessive, who gets to embody the coalition and who is expected to drag it uphill while being told not to make too much noise about it. All right. Before we go to the next section, I just want to check in on the room. See what people are talking about. Hippy Dippy Shelley. I can't say that name without laughing. Thank you for joining us again. And we got David. He's using those big dictionary words here. I think I'm gonna get this right. I just wrote a post about this. So, misogynoir. There we go. Misogynoir plus some exclusionary faux pas in her messaging. This is a comment I'm reading from David Gardner. This is not my thoughts. I'm reading it from the chat room. So let me start all over. Misogynoir plus some exclusionary faux pas in her messaging. Don't forget that she's an avowed opponent of the Epstein class who are petrified of what she could do to disrupt their control of global hegemony. Let's see. Any other comments? No. Let's talk about Kristi Noem. All right. This Homeland Security story today is very revealing, right? Trump fired Kristi Noem as DHS secretary after days of controversy over shooting, spending, and the department's broader handling of immigration and enforcement. He wants Senator Mark Wayne Mullen to replace her. And the easy headline is palace intrigue here. Who is up? Who is down? Who got embarrassed? Who got pushed out? Fine. But the blackout underneath that headline is that the problem was never it's just one personality here. The deeper story is that this administration turned border politics into reality television, into branding, into spectacle, into a performance of domination. So when the face of performance becomes inconvenient, they swap the face and keep the machinery. That is what people need to understand here. A firing like this can fool viewers into thinking accountability happened. And maybe for the brand, maybe for the optics, but the structure remains. The raids remain. The fear remains. The incentives remain. The message, however, also remains. So, point I'm trying to make, do not let that headline seduce you into thinking the system corrected itself. Sometimes, all right, all that happened is the costume department got busy, all right? And listen, before we move on, I'm going to go off the plan again. And I want to show you many of you didn't look at um, the Senate hearing questioning of Kristi Noem, which I think played a large part into why Donald Trump finally decided to can her. Her, like, when she lies, it's like you can tell. It's like a 6-year-old when they lie. You can tell they are lying, right? 6 years old is not, you're not old enough to become a psychopathic liar, all right? And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking to myself, not only does she not want to be here, um, she really didn't come prepared to just lie and attack, right? The way the attorney general did. Hold on, let me see if I can find this video. Cuba. Where is it? I just watched it today. And it's not here. Oh, here we go. Let me see.
If you are lacking AI confidence, AI certainty, AI clarity, and you know
Okay,
you
that's
need
not it. That is a commercial that, hold on. I think
North
I've already got it
Carolina and
queued up.
across the southeast.
Okay. We're just going to watch part of that.
Kari's favorite part of the show, FISA. I think I'm the only one that uses that, so y'all please.
You are. I call it
show us.
NSSW.
It is
It's
for
not what it
your
is.
situational awareness. And y'all, I'm just going to invite you to bring in your topics, the thing that you wanted the listeners to be aware of. But I'm going to kick us off because I have grown very, very used to, and I'm sure you all have as well, when you're watching congressional hearings under these Republican senators' leadership, also known as ladies in waiting to Trump, Democrats do all the heavy lifting. Well, this week and in this particular committee, the Democrats got an assist from a Republican, none other than Tom Tillis of North Carolina, as they, for the first time, heard from Secretary Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security, since all of the chaos that she rolled out in Minnesota. Let's hear Tom Tillis join the Democrats in some heavy lifting on the committee.
And what we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, a disaster. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens. I could talk about the culture that's been created here with Stephen Miller aiding and abetting. I heard first reports that he was the one that said it was a domestic terrorist situation where 2 people lost their lives in Minneapolis. I've heard that report. Maybe you can refute it. I don't know that we'll have time for you to respond because I'm giving you a performance evaluation here. I'm not looking for a response. And I'm saying, Ms. Noem, that time after time after time, I've been disappointed. But before I get back to looking at the vicious people that did this damage to these families, I want to talk a minute about FEMA.
I was just going to say, bear with me because there's a second clip from the senator. And usually we don't go this long with the clips. But y'all, it's not every day that a Republican finds a spine. So let's go with the second.
Okay. Let me stop it right there and interject. A Republican finding a spine. I was surprised to hear him say that. This is the Native Land Pod on iHeartRadio, and they do a video simulcast of the show live. And this, you're looking at the see, this is what happens when you go off script. I haven't had a chance to do my research. This is the governor, the man who ran for governor in, I think it was, I want to say 2012. He ran for governor of Florida. Can't remember his name. And you got a couple of other big hitters on there. Rye, she used to be a Democratic consultant and Democratic insider. And the other person, he was, you've seen him on CNN, or used to see him on CNN frequently. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is these are very informed people, but even they, with all of their support and backup and staff, kind of missed the point that Tillman is not running for reelection. I think that's a very important point to make here. Tillman is going off, all right, as we say in our community. Bruh is going off. He is going off script. And let me just finish playing.
Because it wasn't just about ICE. He also wanted to school the secretary about her book.
Secretary, I read your book last week. And honestly, some of the parts of it impressed me, but some of it distresses me. And I'll give you a good example of one that does. The passage where you talk about killing a dog that was 14 months old. I train dogs, all right? And you are a farmer. You should know better. You should know that if you're going out to a hunting lodge and you're putting pheasants out and you're putting dogs out, you don't take a puppy out there. A 14-month-old dog is basically a teenager in dog years. You decided to kill that dog because you had not invested the appropriate time in training, and then you have the audacity to go into a book and say it's a leadership lesson about tough choices. It's in your book. We could play it if we had time. At that same lunch hour, you killed a goat. And you killed the goat because you said it was behaving badly. You are a farmer. You don't castrate a goat. They behave badly. You should have probably done that before. But my point is, those are bad decisions made in the heat of the moment, not unlike what happened up in Minneapolis. I expect we're an exceptional nation. And one of the reasons we're exceptional is we expect exceptional leadership. And you've demonstrated anything but that in the time that I've seen you responding to the emergency in North Carolina and across the Southeast, and acknowledging when mistakes are made and speaking too soon for the expedient of social media or whatever it is.
Why is he still talking? I was going to say, damn, this is long clip.
It is long, refreshing, however, to hear a Republican finally stand up, say what's been on their minds all along with a degree of earnestness that reflects, I think, where the majority of American people are. Now,
Okay, I'm just going to call bullshit on that one right there. Tillman is not running for re-election. He does not have a spine, okay? If he had a spine, he would have, him and other fellow Republicans would have been making this point before he decided to not run. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. All right. Now, I want to get to one of the stories that really belongs on a show called The Blackout Brief daily, because it's exactly the kind of thing the broader media ecosystem lets drift into wallpapers. Okay, families are turning to states for civil rights help as the federal education department pulls back and weakens enforcement. At almost the same time, the Supreme Court temporarily blocked a California law that had protected student privacy by restricting when schools could out transgender students to parents. So you have two stories that might sound separate if you are half listening. Okay, they are not. The connection is it's power, right? Who gets protected? Who gets exposed? Who gets left alone with institutional failure? And that to me is one of the most important blackout angles in the country right now. While everybody is staring at the loudest man in the room, quieter forms of state retreat are happening in schools, in compliance systems, in civil rights enforcement, in the places where vulnerable people are told, in effect, good luck handling that yourself, right? Black students dealing with racist harassment, trans kids trying to survive school without being forcibly exposed, families looking for some functioning mechanism of justice. Those are not side stories, all right? Those are the country. And let me end with this right here, all right? This is about what coalition used to mean and what this era keeps trying to erase. I don't want us to lose the moral contrast, right, of the day. Thousands are gathering in Chicago for the memorial of Reverend Jesse Jackson, with former presidents and national figures showing up to honor his legacy. And whether you agree with every move he made or not, Jesse Jackson represented a politics that understood something this era keeps trying to erase. Listen, the point is not simply to win headlines. The point is to build a coalition that sees the people who are easiest to leave out. That is the part of his legacy that matters right now. Because what we are living through in story after story it's a fight over who gets disappeared behind the official narrative. So that's where we are at this Friday afternoon. Weak jobs, rising oil, war abroad with economic blowback at home, a DHS firing that changes the face more than the system, civil rights enforcement getting thinner right when families need it more. And listen, if you take nothing else from today's show, take this. The headline is rarely the whole event. A lot of the real story lives in the consequences. And the consequences always seem to find the same people first. So that's the Blackout Brief. This is the Blackout Brief Daily. If you're watching live right now, just hang out for a little bit with me in the chat. I want to know which one of these stories you think the mainstream media is flattening most, because I have a guess. I have a guess at what it is, and I do not think I'm alone on this one. And again, thank you all for joining me. Listen, um, you can become a subscriber for free to support this channel. Okay. Um, yes, hit that like button. That helps out a lot. But your free subscription, okay, it sends a message to the algorithm that we're still here, we're still being heard, and people are still checking in, seeing what we're about. Okay. And don't just join for free, read. Okay. Um, Read some of the material that is on there. I'm sure you're gonna love it. We had a discussion about a article I wrote about Professor Yang. He talks about predictive history and game theory. He predicted Trump would win back in 2024. He predicted we would go to Iran, or we would attack, we would go to war with Iran. He predicted this. He was talking about this while all these, while him and all these other people in the administration were telling us constantly, we're the ones, who are not going to go to war. We're going to stop all the wars. We're going to stop Ukraine. Oh, Kamala Harris wants to invade Iran. The Democrats are warmongers. Well, look at where we are. And so soon, right? Keep in mind, he hasn't been in office. He's been in office a little over a year, and already we've got worldwide conflict, and we've got all this mess going on at home. And you can make an argument, and the wagging the tail argument here. We've got an Epstein investigation going on with revelations coming out almost every other day. We just had one today, and I'll probably cover it tomorrow um, during another live daily daily blackout brief daily. Apparently, there was a document that was redacted or that was not released in the Epstein files, and they gave some kind of flimsy excuse that they didn't want to replicate another file that was already there. I'm paraphrasing something to that effect, but these are very damning serious allegations right there on paper. Okay, you can't say it was a hoax. You can't um, say Democrats made it up. This is an FBI um, or a Justice Department document um, that reports on the allegation. Okay, let me use that word, allegations that in the interview, right? They interviewed her, they talked to her, um, and she was a young teenager at the time, and Trump had the allegation is that Trump had forced her into um, carnal relations and then slapped her afterward. This is very, very, oh man. So anyway, I want to thank you all for joining me. Right? Oh, support anybody on listening on YouTube. Uh, hey, become a member, subscribe, okay, and also to the chat. I'm going to take it back to Substack. If you got a little bit of extra change, go ahead and become a paid subscriber. All right. Help support this, keep it going. All right. I work for you guys, right? David, I work, for you. I don't know if we have any other paid subscribers in the room, but I try to work for everybody. And um my thing is that even though you're free, I want to keep everything free, but if you have the ability to pay for someone who is a free subscriber because they just they can't stretch it anymore, they don't have the funds, or for whatever, then I'd rather keep you here than lose you and have someone else pay your way. It's kind of like the Guardian model, right? You don't have to subscribe to the Guardian in order to read, but they are very heavy on seeking out donations. Same model with Wikipedia. I've never given and I feel guilty for saying this as much as I've used Wikipedia throughout my time, as a grown man. Uh, since it even came into existence, we're talking about 18 years of using Wikipedia. I never gave a dime. So I probably just guilted myself into, at least giving something to Wikipedia. So here's how you can help me out besides a free paid or besides a paid subscription. Many people do not want to be obligated to having to, pay, what is it, $8 a month on their credit card every month. It's tight. I know. I get it. I've just signed up for Buy Me a Coffee because I had a lot of people asking, is there a way to make just a one-time donation? A lot of people don't have Cash App. So Buy Me a Coffee. I mean, I just signed up for it. I don't even know my link. Um, and I haven't even posted it on the website yet. I'll get to that later on this weekend and put the buttons up so to make it really easy. All you got to do is push a button. You go to the website, you push a button, and $5, $3, $10, $100, hey, whatever you think you can give. The link is buymeacoffee.com/explicit. Go ahead and put the Buy Me a Coffee. Wait, hold on. Let's do it like this. Let's copy the link. And then let's just paste that thing. Control V? Yeah, there we go. Let me see. Did it even work? Huh. I didn't see it go out. My chat room might be restricting the links for some reason. But hey, just go type buymeacoffee.com/explicit XPLISSET. And that's it. Thank you for joining me. You guys enjoy your weekend. Thank you. This is the explicit voice of America signing out.